So this one's here with me. Um,
Oh,
yeah. Good evening, everybody. My name is Anthony Marino, the committee chair for Traffic and Transportation here in the Community Board 10 of Brooklyn. Welcome to our April 4th, 2022 meeting. We have this evening we're going to be talking about some of the open streets and the closures, and we'll be hearing from some of those representatives. So welcome everyone. We do have a quorum, so we can get started.
okay. So Anthony, what I did for the committee, I do have a couple of slides just for in terms of background for those who are not familiar with the Open Streets program. We did have a meeting back in February relating to 3rd and 5th Avenue open streets applications. And at the time, the Department of Transportation touched a little bit upon the Open Streets for School program. So I made a couple of slides just to refresh the committee's memory. And let me just, if you bear with me a moment.
Mhm.
Okay, so by way of background, as I mentioned, the New York City Department of Transportation's Representative Kyle Gorman attended the February Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting to provide an update on the New York City Open Streets Permanent Program. So a part of the Open Streets program is the full closure for schools. DOT at that time, Kyle mentioned they plan to continue to work with public, private, and charter schools across New York City to make use of streets for educational purposes and outdoor learning. He provided a slide, as you can see, on the 2021 recap, and related to schools, there were 200 plus Open Streets community partners, 22 city supported and maintained open streets, 100 plus participating schools, 50,000 students, 500 plus participating restaurants, 274 public space programming events. And just a little bit of background, again, New York City Open Streets program was made permanent by the New York City Council, signed into law in 2021. The New York City Administrative Code section pertaining to DOT 19-107, again, was adopted by the City Council and signed by former Mayor Bill de Blasio, authorizing New York City DOT to create this permanent program. And the Administrative Code section outlines the Open Streets program overall. So as far as the full closure schools, which is our two applications that we'll be reviewing tonight for comment, full closures for public, private, or charter schools to support drop-off pickup operations, recess, and outdoor learning. No vehicle access and no parking is allowed when the full closures are in effect. A 15-foot emergency lane must be clear at all times for emergency vehicles. I mean, it's a very long administrative code section. I'm not going to go in through the, through the whole section of the administrative code, but applications are directed directly to the Department of Transportation for review, and they have the final authorization. The selection, pretty much any school can apply for review. There are criteria that DOT does look at that's stated within the statute. And the operation is pretty much managed, by the school that does have the street closure, or the community organization that has an open streets application. But prior to the designation of an open street, the department shall provide notice to the affected council members, community boards, and community organizations. And that's what happened in this case for the first time. Is that we did receive a letter from the Department of Transportation stating that there were 2 open streets applications for schools within the district, and that we had 30 days to provide comments to the DOT on the applications. So on our agenda tonight, the first is Bay Ridge Prep, which again is an open street full closure from Ridge Boulevard from 81st to 82nd Street, Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. The second that we'll review tonight is the High School of Telecommunication, Arts, and Technology. The permit for a full closure of 67th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue, Monday through Friday from 7:45 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. So with that, I'm just going to stop there, Anthony.
Yep.
I'm going to stop the share. And I know that the applicant for Bay Ridge Prep is here, Charlie Fasano. So I am going to bring him into the meeting room. Charles? Okay, you're in the meeting room.
Hi there.
Hi, Charlie, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Josephine?
Good.
Hi.
Hi, Anthony.
How are you?
Good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so Charlie, could you tell us a little bit about the application? I know different than the emergency order, the emergency application last year. Bay Ridge Prep has put in for a new open streets in the 2022, I guess 23 or 2022 is
Sure.
here. So go ahead. The floors are all yours.
Sure. So last year, as many of you know, it was as a result of COVID-19 and being able to keep school open that we were introduced to this. And then we received a letter that schools can permanently apply to it. The outdoor space, we don't have any outdoor space where we are on 81st Street. We have kindergarten through 8th grade there. We were walking students down to Fort Hamilton Park to try to get some recreation space, but we ran into so many problems there with gang fights that were happening, and the situation started to become tenuous. And last year, when we had the opportunity to use the street outside of Ridge Boulevard, just gave our students a chance to be able to have some outdoor space to run around and play and have recess. They have lunch out there. If you came there during lunchtime, you would see students sitting both on the lawn, the small lawn that we have, but also sitting in the street having lunch. And that's about it. It's very busy from about 12 o'clock each day to 1 o'clock. And then there are some other times during the day where 1 or 2 classes will go out and have a recess period outside. So that's about it for now. It's been an amazing thing for our school to be able to do this. We serve about 200 students at the 81st Street site. And it's been something that's been really valuable to us.
good. Thank you. Yeah, I've noticed that sometimes driving, it's blocked off, and I see the kids running outside. Yeah, pretty simple to go around that. So, does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have several.
Go ahead, Doris.
I actually, when I got the notification, I made a list. And my first was, I'll combine them. What happens with garbage pickup and with alternate side sweeping? How does that work?
That's a good question. We have it from 8 to 3, but we don't usually close it from 8 to 3. We usually close it a little bit later in the day. So we haven't had an issue with garbage pickup that I know of. Is anybody complaining that garbage isn't being picked up?
I don't live there. I was just curious. To me, it seemed to be would be an issue.
There are a number of residents who have signed up to attend tonight's meeting, so we'll get to that later. And they also submitted some a written petition, which I'll share after committee questions.
And what are the alternate side sweeping hours there, and how does that impact?
You have a good question, Doris. I'm not really familiar with what's happening during the sweeping.
Well, I think those are things we have to consider. And also, what happens if I need to have appliances delivered and installed?
So, so there are residents who, as you can see, actually with the street closed, you see the cars that are already parked there. We were told by DOT that all the cars had to be cleared out. We haven't done that because we felt like we could allow the cars to stay there. And anybody who's had to go in and out, we just moved the barrier and let them go in and out. We asked the kids to go onto the sidewalk, and so that happens pretty regularly. We'll just move the barrier, the kids go onto the sidewalk, and the cars come in and out. So if someone has to have a delivery, it's not an issue.
and a truck there for installation, that would be okay too?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And accessoride or a need for a resident to have a pickup because they have mobility issues.
Absolutely, yeah, it's not an issue at all.
But if
So,
it says no, you can't go through, what do people do?
well, there's only 2 houses on that block. You know, when we originally did this, you know, DOT was talking to us about closing 81st Street, which has, you know, 20 houses and a lot of different driveways. We felt Ridge Boulevard was better because there's only 2 houses that have driveways on that block. And the 3rd house on that block enters from 82nd Street. And then you have the apartment building and you have St. Mary's Church. So it has not been an issue. The apartment building, if someone had to do accessoride, again, if they want to move the barrier and pull in and pick someone up, it wouldn't be an issue. But very often they pick them up from the 82nd Street side.
And
So the barriers are always manned by staff. They're there at all times to move it.
so they will be manned from 8:30 a.m. till 3 something in the afternoon?
Anytime that street is open, they are always manned. That's a requirement.
But if you're asking for the street for open streets from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m.,
Mhm.
you said someone will man that barrier all that time?
So when I say whenever it's open, if there's a day where we don't have to use it till 10 o'clock, we just leave the streets open. But whenever, you know, we have it from 8:30 because there's sometimes we might use it first period in the morning. But whenever the street is closed, we are not closing it and not having, there's always somebody there on both sides. Whenever that street is closed, there are people on both sides of the street manning the barriers. It's never left unattended.
I would say there's some ambiguity there. And then my last issue for Bay Ridge Prep was you have school buses that come and pick up there. How is that affected?
So when we started off, we were having, we reopened the street at 2:20 before arrival, and for arrival it's not closed, and we opened the street back up before dismissal.
Well, my main comment would be, I think from what you're saying, you have flexibility there and you could probably reduce the number of hours. And I'm done.
Okay, Steve Harrison and Diane Granardis?
Yes, Charles, is this at all times open to pedestrian traffic?
Yes.
Okay.
Diane? Diane, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
So my question is, because I've driven by there often as well and had to go up 81st Street because the street is closed. One of the regulations that you cited said that there has to be a free lane available at all times. And I'd like to know which free lane is available, because as far as I've seen, the street has been totally closed. And so in the event of an emergency, and if you're talking about having young children there, to move those young children, you know, for an ambulance or a police car or whatever, in a very short period of time, I'm just questioning, you know, how is that done? If the regulation states that you have to keep one lane open at all times, how is that accomplished?
The regulation is not saying that you have to leave one lane open. It's saying you have to leave 15 feet open. So like they don't want tables or desks or anything. You have to have 15 feet of space to come through. So so we've had fire engines that have had to come through. They pull right up. They have their sirens on. We move the barrier. We move the kids off the street and they go through. So that and it doesn't mean that the barrier is completely open at all times for things to go through, because the problem then is that cars would drive through it. But you just have to, when you move the barrier, there has to be 15 feet of space for an emergency vehicle to be able to go through, which we have.
Stephanie?
Yes, hello. My camera's not working, but I'm curious about the other schools in the neighborhood. One, this sets a precedent for them as well, and there are several on Ridge Boulevard. From 8:30 to 3:30, that encompasses drop-off and pickup. Has that impeded other parents from traveling freely back and forth along Ridge Boulevard to those other schools? I mean, I don't know where else the traffic is diverted to then, if they can't pass easily.
So
Thank you.
Sure. So for pickup, again, we're reopening the street before dismissal. So we're reopening the street at 2:20, so that should not be impacting it. And we're opening the street also after his children are dropped off at school, at the other school. So it shouldn't be an issue, from my understanding.
So those times work with the other schools as well, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Charles, can you clarify, perhaps when you say that the barriers are always manned by someone, is that
Yeah.
you have dedicated staff members just working, or when the teachers come outside, are they during like the period that they're outside, or is it dedicated staff just for those barriers?
No, we have dedicated staff hired just for those barriers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Excuse me, Anthony?
Yeah. Yes. Go for it, Joe.
Yes. How many children are out in the area at a time? I'm sure it's not all 200. How
No.
many are out there at a time?
It varies. Most of the time during the day, there's probably, I don't know, 20 to 30 students out there. The busiest time would be lunchtime, which would probably be about, I'm going to give a rough number. I'm trying to think of the number of classes that would be out there. Probably could be 100 students out there during lunchtime. Yeah.
Okay.
Ranging from about 25 to 100 would probably be the best estimate.
Doris?
Yeah. Historically, there near schools, there was always a program of play streets. And schools would close the street, one street near their school, out to allow kids to play outside. But it was normally done really during lunch hour. And I can tell you, when they were working on the schoolyard at my grandchildren's school, it was for a short time in the morning when the kids assembled, at lunchtime, an extended lunch, obviously, for several lunch periods. So the city has a history of this, and it was not for such a large chunk of time that impacts the residents. So I think you're hearing a repetition here that I think you can modify your hours.
Okay. So, when we first did it, it was, the city was saying, given the hours between, I think, 7 and 4. So we just did it during our school hours, but we can certainly modify the hours.
Thank you.
Okay, Anthony, I don't see any more.
That's all I say.
Oh, wait, Carmen, I'm sorry, Carmen has her hand raised. Then we'll move to the
Okay.
public.
It's almost like I'm a little confused because the city is saying one thing. I just want to know, did the school ever contact the residents that were going to be affected by this? Did they ever get a letter, a call, have a meeting with them?
So there was a letter that went out initially, yes, when we first did it. So as I said, there's an apartment building and then there's 2 houses on the block. I went and rang the doorbell of the 2 houses and spoke to them about it. The apartment building, I wasn't exactly sure how to do it so easily, but we did put a notice there.
I have a second question. Was that last year when it was like a temporary solution, or this year when it's now becoming a permanent thing?
Last year, we reached out to the residents.
Okay.
I went and rang the doorbells.
Okay, for public notice, after we receive the notification from DOT. We did do a public notice to the residents of Ridge Boulevard and the apartment building, the individual homes and the apartment building. We did receive quite a few number of phone calls and a petition that was emailed to the district office. I do know that there were a few of the residents on this call as attendees, Mr. Chairman. And we did email out to committee members in advance of the meeting the petition from neighbors outlining some of their concerns. I could go through them just really quickly, just some of the bullet points, and then we could turn it over to public portion of the meeting, just from the email that was sent from the immediate residents and neighbors of Bay Ridge Prep. Feel that the current daily street closure of the street, limiting the use of property and dramatically increasing the noise level during the day is burdensome in a number of ways. And they bullet pointed some of them, which I'll just go over really quickly. Inhibits access to residential dwellings, significant amount of noise throughout the day, impacting residents who work from home, creates undue stress with coming and going from residential dwellings. Many residents come and go from their home multiple times throughout the day. High risk of property damage, additional financial burden for 8115 during the course of their home renovation project. And the school has an indoor gym as well as an outdoor space, both on Ridge Boulevard as well as going up 81st Street, without the need to close the street and limit property use. Images are attached, and they did share it, which I could, also upload if you would like, Anthony.
Yeah, could we, I guess, well.
Do you want to go into the public? I see now, if
Yeah,
you're a
we could do
member from
that.
the public and want to speak, direct your questions to the chair and the committee. If you could use the hand raise function, and we would call you to speak.
I don't see any.
Okay, yep, no, I see a bunch.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so the first person will be Jane Hugh. Jane?
Oh.
Hi, Jane. You're in
Hello.
the meeting room. Hi, how are you? You'd like to direct a question or a comment to the committee?
Yeah, can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. Well, hello everyone. Yeah, we're the new owner of 8115 Ridge, which is immediately next to Bay Ridge Prep. So we do want to share a few, thoughts regarding the street closure and how it's actually burdensome for our renovation. So for the first, actually, I don't have my camera on. I apologize. Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Right. So first things, we are actually doing a home renovation right now. There's been a few, I guess, pain points in doing so. So for one thing, because it is a gut renovation, so we are actually unable to put a dumpster right in front of our house with the fear of, hurting the kids. What if God forbid, the kids take something from the dumpster, and that's not only hazardous, but it's a very tricky thing. So we actually, what we winded up doing is we winded up calling pickup dumpster trucks after hours, and that is very expensive in compared to if we just leave a pickup truck and pickup dumpster in the front. In addition, there could be potential damage to the property if the kids continue to play in front. We have seen them multiple times playing with what it appears to be some dodgeballs. So if it smashes a window, or they get hurt in front of us, I'm not sure who's going to be responsible for that. So Charles did share that how there's somebody to man the barricade, but we have experienced during lunch break that there was no staff to move the barricade for our general contractor to unload materials. So we have definitely experienced time where we're trying to come in to unload something and there were no one. So I don't completely buy the points of there is 100% manned, because we have definitely seen sometimes there are just no one in there and we couldn't come or go.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is 100% manned. So I'm not sure what happened in the situation that you were talking about, Jane, but there are people there at all times. So, and Jane, I know that you just moved into the house a few months ago, and if you remember when you first moved in, I came over to you and I said to you, if there's any concerns that you have, to please just come and see me. So if you had a concern about a dumpster or anything, then we're right next door. Just come and talk to us, and we'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about actually approaching you guys, but just in case, even if we put a dumpster in front, you guys said, okay, God forbid the kids take something, then.
But we could, if there's something, we can certainly problem solve together. We're neighbors, so the first day you moved in, if you remember, I came and spoke with you.
Honestly, my bigger concern is renovation aside, because that is temporary anyways. After we move into the house, which is probably going to be in a few months, we're going to have the same issue as like our neighbors experience. We have which they have garbage pickup issues, and they had noise issues and possibility of property damage. So I do actually feel the concern there of Bainbridge Prep closing the street.
I mean, we're using softballs. I don't. There's no property damage that's going to happen as a result, but I understand. When you moved in, we talked about the idea that living next to a school can be difficult, and if there's anything we can do to try to help with that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
You know what?
I understand.
Right. We do have a few more speakers, Anthony.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Jane. I'm going to call on the next speaker, Veronica. Veronica, I don't want to mispronounce your last name. Veronica, you're in the meeting room now. You could unmute yourself. You could direct your question to the chair in the committee.
Hi, how's everybody? I'm Veronica's husband, Nicholas.
Oh, hi, Nicholas. How are you?
How are you?
I'm the person that sent you over the petition earlier. Hi, Charles. Hi, the committee. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Nicholas?
Good. It's nice to meet you, Charles. For the first time in 5 years, we've actually got to meet, and we're the first neighbors.
Very nice. Yeah.
So as far as I wanted to address a couple of points that Charles has brought up, and I think it's very important that everybody understands. Garbage pickup has been spotty. We call 311 on a weekly or maybe semi-weekly basis, and that could be logged through 311. There are numerous wrappers, there are numerous garbage in front of our house, on our lawn, and everywhere else up our driveway. We find my wife has to lug groceries from half a block down to our house during the day because kids are playing football, throwing balls, and taking up the space where we don't have usage or access to our property anymore. It's been quite a bit burdensome because my wife, we have 2 little kids that we ferry to school back and forth. So access to our property has been tremendously restricted. We have started a petition. We've taken a look at what our neighbors think. Overwhelmingly, almost all the neighbors are opposed to this. There has been not a single reach out by the school to the community since this started to communicate with us and address any of the concerns. This is the first time I meet Charles, for your information, and they did not ask us permission to do this on a permanent basis in 2021. We have all their visits on camera, so if you could tell us the date, we could pull up everything that we're talking about. So the closure of the streets, we've seen quite a bit of noise, especially that we've been working from home for quite a bit of time. And I think it's been burdensome to not have access to our property, as well as my wife not have access to our property, and our neighbors not being able to renovate their property. So we have the signatures which we provided to the board, which I think cover most of the residents on 8119, and we provided from the Bay Ridge Preparatory School website the information of all the outdoor spaces, as well as all the spaces that they could utilize without burdening the rest of the neighbors.
Nicholas, what outdoor spaces are you referring to?
You have spaces on Ridge Boulevard. They're attached in our petition. You guys advertise them. You have spaces on Shore Road that you take the kids to, and you advertise that as well as the park across the street on Shore Road. 81st Street, right there. You guys repave the grass to artificial turf, and
Right.
you have lessons there.
That's very small space though, but you know, and in terms of Shore Road, you know, to walk the students down there would be 40 or 50 minutes to walk them down there and then walk them back. So, but you know, we don't have open space on
There's
Ridge
a
Boulevard.
playground 5 minutes away at Fort Hamilton Park, and if you're
Right.
certain that there is gang activity there, I would like you to provide some proof, because we haven't seen any gang activity. And there's gang activity.
Absolutely.
We would love to
Absolutely.
hear about it. And I'm sure 68 Precinct would love to hear about it as well, because we have not.
The 68 precinct has heard about it. We have filed many complaints, and all you need to do is speak to the city councilman's office, because we also spoke to them.
We have.
There was serious gang fights there, one of which I had to prevent a kid from getting killed because he was getting pounded on the floor. It's a very significant situation. We would love to be able to bring our kids to the playground. It is not safe. And that's something that went on for years.
So as part of the school outreach, how come this is the first time we ever hear of the school, from the school, and with as many problems as all the residents have voiced to the committee and to you guys?
Nicholas, you expressed concerns to some of my staff. You asked that your snow get shoveled during the snowstorms. We went and shoveled it. You asked that your leaves be swept. We went and swept them as a courtesy.
Do you know what some of your members told me? Do you really want to hear how I was told to basically go shove it?
Okay. I think we should just direct the questions to the chair, specific to the.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to say anything to Charles, but essentially we've had tremendous amount of garbage, tremendous amount of inability to access our property. And after fighting the school, they finally agreed to sweep after themselves, since they're closing the school and not letting us utilize the property, to pick up the snow and all the rest of the garbage off the street. And we should be thankful to them for that. So thank you, Charles. Thank you for that.
That's not the case. You're not being honest, Nicholas, but that's okay.
Okay.
You're welcome to come and speak to me anytime. You're not being honest about it. We're not sweeping the street where we're leaving a mess. We were sweeping the leaves in front of your house because you asked us to. I'm not talking about the street. I'm talking about the sidewalk. We shoveled the snow on your sidewalk as a courtesy.
We can table this, and we have this noted and stuff. And thank you for those comments. We'll move on to the next person. Thank
Okay.
you.
So if you'd like to speak on this topic, if you could use the hand raise function. I know that there's a lot of people here for the next application. So I don't see there are no more hands raised for this application.
Okay.
Just waiting, I'm just looking. I don't see any additional hands on this. We are going to be discussing 67th Street next. So Anthony, I think we'll close the public portion on this
Sounds
application
good.
at this time. Did you want to have committee discussion now or move to the second and then do it? at the end?
I guess yeah. You want to move on to the next one and then talk in the end, or
It's up to your committee. What do you think?
what do you guys want to do? We could talk now about this one and then move on to the next. Is that easier? We can.
That's
I'm not seeing anyone. Doris.
I think we should speak about this one now.
Yeah, well, it's in our heads, right? Yeah, well, it's.
Anthony, I think it's really up to you, Anthony. You're the chair.
Well, so let's have a discussion now on the Bay Ridge Prep. Does anybody have comments or questions or want to? I'll open the floor.
Okay, so I will share that CDDOT is seeking comments regarding the street closure. Now, just to clarify from, what was discussed earlier, during the pandemic and during the emergency order, the board was not asked for comment on this application. So in the permanent program, there is a notification requirement as part of the administrative code. So we are tasked, not in really an up or down, but in formulating comments to provide to the Department of Transportation for review on this submission for an open street. So I'll turn it over to committee members.
Anybody have
Steve, Diane?
any additional comments regarding this one?
I would just say that play streets have been part of the New York City school programs for decades, since I was a kid, and that's a long time ago. And they're an important part of giving open space to children. And I think this is a different extension of that. But I think the hours that Bay Ridge Prep is asking for should be reduced, because they basically say they use it mostly during lunch and recess periods, which are more midday. So there could be reductions and there could be other tweaking.
Okay.
Diane Gordon-Artis and Steve Harrison?
Yes, so I would like to say that I also agree that the hours should be limited to their lunch period. I've worked in the Department of Education for a very long time. The children go out during lunchtime for recess. Many of my buildings did not have and do not have outside access for the children to have outdoor recess, etc. So I think to be reasonable about the entire thing and to be as accommodating to our residents as possible, that the hours of the street closure should be limited to their lunch period.
Steve?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is the first time I've ever seen a play street really on an avenue as opposed to a side street. And I think it's fair to say too that almost all those play streets that I can think of went back virtually as, to when I was a kid. So, I'm talking about ones on the side. I think it's quite a thing when you really think about it, that the neighbors, they moved in there, some of them, I know some of them just recently, but they moved in there at a time when,
We get it.
Okay, we get it too. But they moved in there at a time when there was a church across the street and there was no play school or play street or anything of that nature. So I think that their concerns are very real. And I think that it's something that has to be taken into consideration. And while I have no doubt that Charles and the school are working in good faith does not really cure all. And I think that they really have to sit down with the neighbors and come up with a better plan that would take into consideration their serious concerns and recognizing how long, Charles, has the school been there?
It's been over 20 years now.
At that location?
Yes.
Okay, so then that means that we put in a play school for people that were used to play street rather, for place that people were used to, the neighbors. Okay, and it changes everything for them. It may change it for the better for the school. I agree with that, and I would like to see that happen. But it makes it more difficult for them. So I think that before I would recommend that that before it be approved, that there has to be a sit down, not just with one neighbor, but with all neighbors, in such a way that they can come up and air their concerns and see how they can, the school can address them to have the least impact on their neighbors who are private homeowners and have real concerns here.
Okay, Anthony, I'm sorry, I muted you to help you out.
I muted, yeah, I mean, thanks, Steve. Thank you. Anyone else? Carmen, I see you raising your hand.
I'm lucky enough to have Accessoride, and at no point with that street or any other time I've encountered like a school closing a street, did I ever know you could move the barrier to get through. And a lot of times when, depending on how the driver's bringing me home, I've never seen anybody on the corners. And then like they may make a turn, wind up there, and then we have to just, reroute or something. But I don't see people at the corners ever. And this, I'm just talking about at this school. And I travel a lot by car, so.
I'm sorry, on Ridge Boulevard, you're not seeing people on the
I don't see, I'm being honest, because I take Accessoride to travel. We've stopped there and then had to reroute. I do not see people at the corners all the time, no, or rarely, or ever.
I mean, Carmen, it's,
No.
I don't understand.
Are they sitting there, standing there? I don't want to get an argument.
They're sitting in chairs right at the barriers. I mean, their names are Josh and Michael. They're hired full-time to do that, so they're there. I mean, please come by during the day tomorrow, anytime. They're hired to sit there anytime. We have to by DOT, and DOT comes on a regular basis and does inspections. And they told us if we don't have people on the corners, that they would close it down. We always have them there.
Well, I will go by and I will look for them then.
Yes,
But
sure.
there's been times I have not seen them there.
Okay, Stephanie?
Yep, Steph.
Yes, I just wanted to add my concerns along with the others of the committee. With all of the open street aspects of the Open Streets program, I just feel like this is public space, again, being ceded to private use, which disproportionately benefits maybe one organization. And granted, I understand the need for play space for children, absolutely, but on Ridge Boulevard, that seems problematic. And again, this is a residential neighborhood, and we cannot dismiss the concerns of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, is your hand still up, or you have additional comments, or?
Well, I just want to read, I should have put it down, but I apologize.
Okay.
But I do think that I want to just echo one thing, is that the people at the end of the street, there has to be some kind of a sign. I mean, you're driving along there. I mean, they may be sitting in a chair on the side, but there should be some kind of an indication that by asking that person that, for help or something of that nature, I would not know if that person was just out there sunning themselves. I mean.
That's a very good point, Steve. Yeah, that's a very good point, because I look at the corner and I see someone there. Someone else may look and not realize
That's correct. And that's what I'm talking about here. I think that there may be a midpoint where people could find a way to do this. But I would be annoyed if I came home and found out I couldn't get into my driveway, or I had to wait for other people to get into my driveway. They're just something, that I think you can work that out in some way. Maybe you need more personnel out there, whatever. But I encourage you, and before we could, say that we would go forward with this, I would say that you have to have that meeting with the neighbors, and it has to be something that there's adequate notice to everybody, and that everybody agrees. There just isn't that many people that on that street, okay, that I'm aware of. I think that you have to have that. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Anyone else for comments or questions, concerns regarding the Bay Ridge Prep Open Streets? Okay.
Okay, so Anthony, so we'll put all of that into a motion. I guess we could do that at the end, because we have a lot of folks here for the second
We'll move
portion
on
of the meeting. So thank you so much for all who came to speak about this application. Thanks to Charlie Fasano and his team for attending. And
thank you, everybody,
next,
for your feedback. It's all helpful.
great. And we'll be in touch, Charlie. I'll share with you
Okay.
the recommendation of the committee. So next, Anthony, we have an application. Oh, I'm sorry. Bear with me. Technical issues. Okay, so the second application submitted by the High School of Telecommunication Arts and Technology for a full street closure on 67th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue, Monday through Friday, between the hours of 7:45 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. And I have photos of the street here. This is looking from 4th Avenue down towards 3rd Avenue. This is a continued photo. It's a very long block. As you can see, it's adjacent to the passive recreation park area, kind of the Belt Parkway area to the left. And you can see the Bay Ridge Towers in the distance. And the block continues down toward 3rd Avenue. You can see a number of 1 and 2 family homes. And I'm going to stop my share because I do know that there were a number of residents who attended. I am going to share with the committee that we did invite the school, and they did respond to say they were unable to attend tonight's meeting.
Okay.
So we can go right into the public commentary. The board did provide public notice to 67th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue. So I do know that a number of people have their hand raised. So if it's okay, we could just delve into it since the applicant is not here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the first person already in the meeting room is Julie Vega. Julie, would you like to speak first?
Yes, I would. I understand the first school because there are little children. This is a high school. High school children, I went to Fontbonne Hall Academy. When we wanted to go out for gym, we would walk a couple of blocks and go down on Shore Road. These students can definitely walk down and they can go to Owl's Head Park to have whatever, any playtime area, whatever. What you're proposing, what this proposal is doing is it's proposing to close a church. There are church services every day, especially during the holidays. And what are we supposed to do? Stop everything and just tell people we can't bury you because there isn't going to be, you know, we have to block off the streets. We have a lot of elderly people who come, who need accessoride. How are they going to get down the street? If they can figure out a different location, it would be fine. What about deliveries that have to be made to the church? And again, just as in the other circumstance with the other school, what about garbage pickup? What about the noise? I don't think someone wants to grieve their loved one while hearing 100 kids outside screaming and yelling. I think it's very disrespectful, quite honestly. Okay, and that's basically all I want to say.
Okay. Thank you so much. There's a large number of hands raised. So Stella Kokolas, Stella is a board member. I think this may be her.
Yes,
Stella?
you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Stella.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Stella, we can hear you.
Good evening, Maria. A long time to come to the point that I would like to express my opinion concerning schools. Young children, I understand that there should be a solution, compromise, sit down. This is something completely different. It's really very sad to close access to a church in a block that it's been always open. The school accommodates not very young children, the AT&T preparatory, whatever school is there. They can walk. They don't have to be close to create problems in the neighborhood and stop the worshiping the Lord. Today than ever before, we need the church. We need the synagogues. We need the any kind of church and religious aspect to be open. It's imperative that these streets should not be closed.
Okay, Stella, we're kind of
community for many years. And that particular church absorbs elderly people who have to come by car. They cannot walk, and they come all different times a day.
And especially our days, we need the church. The church provides therapy, any kind of therapy, worshiping of God, giving advice to people, calm them down. We need the church to be available and the street to be open. And please understand that it's not the same as any other in Beirut.
Okay, Stella, you're coming in a little difficult to hear, but we did hear your concerns. So we're going to move to the next speaker. So the next speaker, I'm please apologize, Apostolos Minendolotis. You're in the meeting room now. You can take your mute off the.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome.
Okay, hello, how are you? I'm the priest of the church, and as a priest of the church, I would like to ask you, most of the times we have service during the time of 8 between 12. Sometimes we have Vespers as well, which begin at 4. And most of the times we have people come to do confessions here, which can be various times, and most of them, they're elderly people. So if you're gonna close the street from 8 until 4 p.m., right? That's the time.
Yeah, that's the time that was in the letter from the Department of Transportation to the office. Again, we will bring these comments to the Department of Transportation and share them with the school. Has the street been closed at all?
Yes, a couple of times without a notice or whatever. They closed the street. They barred the street as you showed us the pictures. They just barred the streets, no access whatsoever. So the elderly people couldn't come in. They cannot walk. They're like, some of them, they have movement disabilities. You know, and the other thing, you know, it's a law in front of, it's forbidden to park in front of the entrance of the church by the United States laws. During the week, I don't know if they are teachers or students from the school, they are always blocking the entrance to the church. So people who bring elderly people here, they cannot find parking. So the elders can attend to the church. And that's basically what I want to say. Thank you.
Has anyone from the school reached out to you or the church?
No. Actually, I personally went a couple of times there. I asked them very politely to, you know, please don't close the street. We can find you can let us know. We can find we can give you a sign or whatever. You can let us know when, so we can let the people know when the street is gonna be closed, so they can take their measurements. And you know, they never let us know what they're gonna do. So we one day woke up and find out that the street was closed.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to continue on. We have a number of hands raised. Stefania, Anton, I will let you pronounce your last name, but Stefania, you're in the meeting room now. You can unmute yourself and speak. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
How? First of all, I would like to thank you for providing me the chance to speak, because it is a double worry for me as a parishioner and a resident. But let's get started by the most important part of this issue, which is the street closure. First of all, we never received any notice, never. We just noticed one day that the street was closed. we face different various issues regarding the deliveries, regarding the church, the church serve. You know, we provide food to many poor people, and we deliver things because of the preparation of the meals, and the people couldn't reach the church to deliver, and the drivers were complaining about that. But the major issue is those older adults that cannot reach the place. And as Father Apostolos mentioned, there is the second, there's a double problem. The second topic is that they block the door without even asking us. It's disrespectful. And what I personally did as a member of, as a parishioner, I tried to reach them out. After 2 or 3 weeks they were doing this. I contacted very politely, of course. I asked them to cooperate so that we can serve both the children, which of course I understand there is a need. But older adults too needs to be supported in many, many ways, like Mrs. Kokolis referred previously. So it is, and the second topic is too many hours. It is all day. I could understand if they provided us any schedule, or if they make less hours. It could be okay, but not so many hours. Closing the street for so many hours means that the church cannot serve. Believe me, cannot serve. There are people that ask for confession, and we don't have the opportunity to help them, and some of them are in severe need. There are others, for example, when funerals or other ceremonies, and we have to make so many arrangements that makes the attendance of the every ceremony very, very, very hard to be attended. So please, it is something that can be done. It is disrespectful for people who receive our help there in the church, and would beg you to pose the question and ask them not to do so.
Thank you very much, Stefania. I'm going to move to the next speaker. The next speaker is Jean Mass. Jean, you're now in the meeting room. You could turn off unmute yourself. Jean, can you hear me?
Unmute, start video.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we could hear you.
Okay. It didn't give me the option until you let me become a panelist.
Okay.
So Josephine, I first would like to thank you for your time on the phone today. It really helped me prepare for the call tonight. Thank the board members, because I've been in your shoes in a township in New Jersey, and I know what you go through. I am an owner of the house a couple of doors down from the church, and I happen to be Greek, although I'm not a parishioner at the church. But I can tell you that there is a lot of activity at the church during the day. So at the risk of sounding like Rosanna Dana, where I say, never mind, or Emily Latella, when you talk about the open street on 67th Street, you're saying that there is no parking, right? There are no cars on the street.
Yes, that's correct. So,
okay.
So that's the rules. But I guess what we heard tonight is they're not strictly adhered to, but according to the Department of Transportation rules, when there's a full street closure, there is to be no parking on that street and no driving. I mean, that's the rule. But it seems as if on a smaller street, like, a Ridge Boulevard, there's been some accommodation that we heard tonight. I don't see how that's really, that that would be very difficult on a street like 67th Street. Yeah.
So, so where I'm going with that, just to make sure that we were on the same page, which I did sort of get from you today. The community board did send out, did put flyers at the house, which is how I found out about. Not only did the school not reach out, but the teachers had no idea. So when a nameless person alerted them today that they were at risk of losing their parking spots, there was great concern because 60% of the parking during the school day is from the teachers. And where on earth would they ever park? I mean, not only as residents would we have a very difficult time parking, but where would the teachers park? Also, I have an elderly mom, and while we don't really use Access-a-Ride, I am her personal Access-a-Ride. So, I am right in my driveway or in front of my house. I'm bringing her back and forth to frequent doctor appointments. So I need to be able, to be right in front of the house, just as the elderly people in the church. You're going to see my elderly mother walk by me any moment. There she goes. So it's very challenging on that note alone. And to the point of what we have currently, the school does have the gates, the barriers that they put up, and it's very random. It's a guessing game. Can I go down the street? Can I not go down the street? I have seen people, maybe not me, maybe me, who, you look and see and you come up the street the wrong way to go into your driveway because there's no other access. And I'll put this in writing so you don't necessarily have to respond to each piece, but I also went to the fire department today because not only they have people that park on the street, but that fire truck goes down the street like numerous times. And when I spoke to one of them about it, they said it's already an issue for them when when it's sometimes blocked off, and for it to be blocked all the time is a great challenge for them. We also have the Conklin House on the block, which is the handicapped adult residence. So they continuously have access. They have the handicap ramps that were built in at the house. So need also to go back about them being they have that park right across the street. They used that park when the school was doing renovations and they had classrooms, physical trailers in the park. They should be able to use that park as their open space. And you don't even necessarily have to, close the street because they can cross at the light. There's a light right there that takes them right into the park. So, I think there are other options.
Jean, I don't mean to cut you short. I see a board member has a hand raised, and we do have a lot more people to.
Okay.
Speak.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I hit all the points.
You've covered a great deal, but Steve Harrison, you had a question?
I just wanted to ask Ms. Moss, how long have you lived there?
I am back in my childhood home. We moved here in 1969.
Wasn't there a period of time in which that street was already closed for quite a while, if I recall? You couldn't make a left-hand turn down there all day.
Right, but you could still park. So for me, the best of the worst case scenarios is to leave it as is, where the barrier is there, but you can still have access. That street was closed when the school was undergoing renovations, and they literally had trailers on 67th Street
Right.
and also in the park. So it was closed completely. It wasn't for, for recreation.
Yeah, but I'm saying that I recall that even when they didn't have the trailers there, that was, I don't know why they did it, but I do recall that you couldn't make a left-hand turn from 4th Avenue to get down to 3rd Avenue on any school day.
Yeah, but it's random. It's not, it's when somebody decides they want to put a barrier up, because I'm sure the church
That
people
was
can
years
attest to
ago.
this.
Years ago.
Yeah, it was years ago, and it was all the time. And I will point out
It was
that I
all the
don't
time.
think
It was all the time then.
right.
Now,
It was all the
what-
time.
Just as a question, this is where I'm going. Did that create problems back then?
It created problems for getting in and out of the street if you lived here. Again, you would have to, for me, I was, COVID changed a lot of this for me personally. I don't know how it affected other people, but my mom is elderly and I live in New Jersey. And during COVID, I came to her a lot. I was here, I would come early in the morning and leave late in the day. But there were times that I didn't come until after 4 o'clock, so it wasn't an issue. And you could work around, unfortunately, a lot of people, when they needed to, they came up the street the wrong way. I'm going to be honest. That's, when you had a delivery, when you had the plumber. I mean, since I've been sort of full-time living here again since July, we've had plumbers, we've had, all kinds of different workers at the house. And we have to run out in the street and see if the barrier's up, and then tell, the people that are bringing equipment, we'll stand in the middle of the street and make sure that you can come in.
I think you've answered my question. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Janine. Thank you so much. Thank you. Josephine, we have the next person.
Yes, we have 8 people. Stacy Balagos. Stacy?
Excuse
next.
me 1 second. Can I take the floor? For 1
Stella,
second?
no, we've called the next person already, Stella. We'll get back to you.
Okay.
Stacy, hi.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Chair Marino. Good evening to the members of the Traffic and Transportation Committee and all members of Community Board 10. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Stacy Bliagos, and I'm a lifelong resident of Bay Ridge, and I've been a member of St. Nectarios Greek Orthodox Church for 34 years. I would implore you to rethink the open street application for 67th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue. St. Nectarios is a Greek Orthodox church located in the middle of the block on 67th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue, and closing the street presents a major problems for the older adults that attend church, since any accessorized car service or Uber is forced to leave them on either of the corner on 3rd Avenue and 67th Street or 4th Avenue and 67th Street. Most of the parishioners at St. Nectarios Church that attend Mass daily from 8 to 12 are elderly and disabled. The elderly and disabled were one of the groups that were mostly affected by COVID-19. They had to endure months of isolation, and going to church is really one of the few pastimes that these individuals participate in. And after church, people gather and drink coffee and have their social hour. Do we really want to introduce another obstacle in their way now that things are semi back to normal? Additionally, and unfortunately, as Ms. Vega mentioned earlier, this church, like all churches, conducts funeral masses. What do you expect members of this church to do when an event like this occurs during the week? If this application was for one day or for 1 week, I would not be sitting here opposing this, but to close the street permanently, Monday through Friday, is a complete disregard for all the members in the community that want to attend church, whether it's to light a candle, say a prayer, attend confession, or receive communion. There are also many members of this community that have experienced food insecurity and pass by to ask for help from the church, as well as pass by and speak to Father Apostolos as their social worker and therapist. I understand the high school needs space and they can use the park adjacent to the street. And there's also a green area diagonal to the high school. Additionally, both the high school and the church have been on this block in my lifetime, and I have not seen it. They've coexisted peacefully, and I have not seen any street closures. For the foregoing, I ask that you reconsider the street closure and find another way to accommodate the high school without closing the street and blocking members of this community to attend their church service. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you.
Yeah. So the next speaker is going to be Michael Photopoulos. Michael, you can unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Michael. Welcome.
Hi, my name. Thank you for having me. My name is Michael Photopoulos, and I am a worshiper. I'm a parishioner at St. Nectarius Church, and I do attend many weekday liturgies. So I wanted to say a couple of things. I understand that schools say that they want an outdoor space, and like was mentioned for the previous school, they do have gymnasiums, but there are also two green spaces, not even a half a block, literally across the street, and there's a space down the block. But my major concerns are what deals with the church. That, many people said, yes, many elderly people go and they're going to be infringed upon. But one thing that a lot of people mentioned this but didn't mention, but this is also a fundamental right protected by the Constitution, that if people are blocked and not able to go worship, this is an infringement of rights too. This isn't just an inconvenience. This is a step more than that. Also, by saying, they can walk from the corner. Again, there are laws like the Persons with Disability Act that we need to consider. These things are hindrances when there's a workaround that there are parks right across the street. These students are high school students. They can very easily cross the street at the light to go to another place, to go to a park. These are the two major things I wanted to say. The other thing is that because I do go to weekday liturgies, the street closure is very arbitrary, but the teachers are always parked there. There has to be 40, 50 cars of teachers that are parked there. They're not going to be able to park there, which is going to make a parking shortage even worse. So even when people do come to church and park someplace and have to walk, they're not going to find parking either. So it's going to be a convergence of hindrances to the community, which plays a very important role. I think all the people that have come to speak up today show how important the community is to these people, to us, to the neighborhood, to the community. So I had a few other things to say, but most of the people said them, and I don't want to keep repeating myself. I did want to say, though, that it's not just an inconvenience. It's something more that we have to consider. By blocking the street, it's a right that we need to have not hindered. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, our next speaker is going to be King Ming Gao, G-A-O. King Ming, you can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak for this school open street project application. Here I'm a resident on the 67th Street between the 3rd and 4th Avenue. So a lot of a lot of our neighbors already talked about this issue. I want to cut it short. The first thing is about the necessity. So the school has like a park just right across the 67th Street, which they could use. And there's the Osehead Park, literally just 3 blocks away. They could walk to that park within 10 minutes. And I don't think that's necessary for them to actually like take the 67th Street. Also, we don't have the GAN issue here. If we have it, that's them for the park. So that's the first issue I want to point it out. And the second one is about the heavy traffic on 67th Street. We have the fire department engine 241 by the corner of the 3rd Avenue. So a lot of time the fire trucks would make a turn on our 67th Street. So we could not double park on 67th Street nowadays because we need to give space for the truck. And if we are totally blocking the street, I think that would be an issue for them too. And the third issue I have is about the liabilities, because the street and sidewalk, they are not designed for like playground for high school students. So what if like the students fall on the street? Is that our liability or is the school's liability? Also about the cleaning and those other kind of issues, garbage, like also deliveries, garbage collections. So that's all the liability issues. Nobody talked about that, those issues with us. And I think the other thing is like currently they are already blocking the street from time to time. Usually they do it from noon to like 4 p.m. something, but we do not see anyone managing the barriers. Literally, no one is managing their barriers. Sometimes they left it there like by 6 p.m. and we came back home, we have to move it by ourselves. That's not the way they should do it. And now they are applying to close the street from 7:45 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. That's really a long school hours. With nowadays, a lot of people work from home. That's totally, most of us couldn't just be blocked from driving out.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate
so
that.
much.
I'm going to move to the next speaker because we have 6 more signed up. C-Rays S21, that's what's on the C-Ray. If you could introduce yourself, you should be able to unmute now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
Okay, ma'am. My name is Charlie. C-Ray was the thing I did for Zoom.
Okay,
For,
all right, welcome.
the hospital things. Okay, listen, are you guys familiar with 67th Street at all?
Yes.
Okay. 67th Street is the only street you can make a turn to go from 4th to 3rd from here to 59th Street. You have the one that's by the police station over there. But you can't make a left turn to get past 3rd Avenue, not from here until 59th Street. So that's one thing. Number two, it's like we say, for years, we have not been allowed to double park on alternate side like they can down 67th between 3rd and Ridge and everywhere else, because the fire department come down this road all the time. Okay. Second of all, you guys, we can't park in front of the church. You said in the pictures, yes, it's a very long block, but as people residents who live here, we can't use only about 40% of it, because you have no school parking during the days, both sides of the street up by the school. You have the church you can't park in front of. So it's already a major issue. All of these houses are not 1-family houses. They're 2 and 3 and 4 family houses. Okay. And by law, I don't know if you else notice this, everybody has a driveway, but nobody owns their own driveway. They're 50-50 between each house. And by New York State law, they are not allowed to build a garage in the back of the house. So it's not like they can drive into their driveway and then park in in their garage. I have the only garage on the block. I'm at the corner. It's the only one. And yet the teachers still park in front of my driveway because if they're running late, they don't want to be late for school, get in trouble for that. So they park in driveways. I myself have given over 100 tickets out over the past 5 years to teachers. I call up the school says they'll take care of it. Nothing happens. It happens the next day. Then they get a ticket. I haven't told anybody yet, but it's such a problem with the teachers already parking in the driveways of the people on the street that is considered a chronic problem by the communications sergeant, the community sergeant for the 68th precinct. He considers it a chronic problem, and he has told me that I should start towing and have everybody else start towing. That way they get the hint to not come park in anybody's driveways for hours at a time. Okay? And like I said, the guild is up here. They walk down the street all the time, but not all of them. They have accessoride every single day. They have pickup and drop off. Okay. You also have, like you say, the church. Well, the church is there. It's open every day. What are you going to do on the days when they have the holidays and celebrations and stuff that fall during the week? We were learning to live with these little slight things, but it's just the way it is. You guys took over a huge portion of Leif Erikson Park. That's the name of the park across the street. And just so you know, Leif Erikson Park is a string of parks that starts from Shaw Road all the way up past Fort Hamilton Parkway. So there is a complete line of parks. Why not just take over that big, huge section of the park for the kids to walk across the street at the light and deal with it? Okay. And if you're going to tell me you're going to close the streets and nobody's going to be allowed to park there, that means the teachers aren't going to be allowed to park there. Am I correct? Because if they start parking there, then you're gonna have nothing but complaints and problems. Where are they gonna park?
Right. No, I appreciate that. Again, it's certainly that's what we were told by Department of Transportation, and I appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you.
I'd also like to say something else to the guy. There were no street closures for the school, except when they were doing construction, and they were doing major construction for like the last 20 years, which is why they had to have student trailers put in the park across the street. They were redoing everything for the school. They put up 2 giant garbage truck size air conditioners right next to the church. They went from coal to oil and everything else like that. So they added a whole wing to the building on the center of the street side. So it's been a whole thing. Now recently, they've been closing it off during the week. Sometimes the gate is there, sometimes it's not. And it is never manned, because if I have to go down there, I'm going to move it myself. I live on the block. I'm 56 years old. I got a heart bypass. My mother's 83. Are you going to tell me that if I got to take it to a doctor's appointment, I have to drive around and look for a spot wherever I can find it?
No,
I mean, basically what you're doing is you're giving me a full-time job to park my car every day.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
You know what I mean?
comments.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next speaker.
If you have to close the street, why can't you just close it all the way up to the church? You have that whole section there.
Right, I'll just respond to that really quickly before we move on to the next. According to the Department of Transportation rules and the statute, when a street is closed, it is a full closure from the top of the street to the bottom of the street for safety. Those are the rules that are currently as they exist. So I'll move on to the next speaker, Kathy Vasilakos. Kathy, you can unmute yourself. And I want to be cognizant of time. So if comments have been made, we want everyone to hear everyone, but we do want everyone to have a chance to speak. Kathy?
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, Kathy, how are you?
Yes, good, thanks. So I basically will, I'm just going to agree with Michael and Stacy and the gentleman who just spoke. The city council just created a nightmare for the residents of the block, for the parishioners of the church. And, they're creating a parking disaster for the surrounding community. So I can tell you from my personal experience, I drive a couple of older women to church, and on the days that I don't find parking on those weekday services, I'll drop them off in front of the church. This way I'll make sure that they get inside and then I go looking for parking. But, there's no way that I could just drop them off at the corner and let them walk to the church by themselves. It's just dangerous. And you have many, many parishioners that rely on car service, Access-a-Ride, family and friends to drop them off door to door. So, this is just wrong.
Right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Kathy. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. The next speaker is going to be Maria. Hold on, Maria Jambanco. Maria, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, sorry, it just allowed me to unmute.
Yes.
So I am a teacher at the High School of Telecommunication Arts and Technology, and I do want to say that I agree with all of you. The barriers are not manned. As a teacher, I often drop things off and have to pick things up. I run the greenhouse at the school. So the parking in front of the school is actually really important to me because it allows me to lug a lot of things to and from school. So losing that parking would be uncomfortable. I don't think that's what they plan to do, but it is an overreach, in my opinion, to the community and very unfair. The block is a large block. It has a lot of homes there. It has a church there that's very active. I don't feel that the teachers themselves, most of them support this. And so I just wanted to come and give my 2 cents that I feel that I was unaware of this until I got a flyer today on my car. I think most of my colleagues are unaware of it as well. I think most of my colleagues would agree that we don't really use that space very much. Yes, the gym teachers do. Our gym is tiny and pitiful, but we do have the park across the street, and we were using that prior to the street closures. During the pandemic, it was one thing. We needed to have the ability to let kids go outside and take their masks off, but the pandemic is pretty much over. Kids are allowed to not wear masks in school. I do not think we need to do this now, and that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay, so our next speaker is Contessa Drossos. Contessa. Oh, I think I lost Contessa. Oh, hold on. Contessa, you can speak. Contessa, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
I could hear you, yes. Welcome.
I apologize. It took me a minute.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am also a parishioner of St. Nectarios, and most of the people I agree with pretty much everything that everyone says. I do feel that it is a hardship for the parishioners, for the residents, and it would be a parking nightmare. So I, along with everyone else, would like you to reconsider the application, and hopefully they can find a better solution. There is they are high school kids, they are older, hopefully more responsible, and they can, cross the street, go to the parks. There's even the park like on 5th Avenue that they can walk to if they really needed the space. I'm an elementary school teacher, so I do understand the value of having the kids go outside, but we also teach the kids to respect everyone, and we do respect for all in schools and outside of school. So I'm kind of hoping that also includes respecting the community and the members of the community, the church, the residents of the block. So I'm hoping you'll consider voting against the open streets.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good. All right, so we have Nikki Lagakis, and then we have, we'll go back to Stella. So Nikki, you can speak now. You could just unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Yes, we could hear you.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Hi.
Welcome.
Welcome. Hello, everybody. And the lady said plenty for the church. I'm also a parishioner. My dad is the chanter, who's going to be 82. And he hobbles in there and he hobbles out of there quite often. But just for my dad, he's there almost every day. He's got to park wherever he parks. And if we close the access, how's he gonna get over there? 81, 82 years old. That's just him. Then you have, like everybody else said, there's church services, there's funerals, there's different things. Closing the street all day is probably not the best option for the community. And the others have mentioned here, there's park across the street, there's another park over there. There's also 4 sides to the school. Maybe we pick a different side, or maybe we use the park. But blocking the church services shouldn't really be an option. I mean, whenever I bring my mom there, I've never seen anybody man the barriers.
Okay.
And unlike most, I move the barriers. I bring her in because she's in a wheelchair, my mother, and then I go back out and I close the barrier.
Okay.
So there's nobody there. There's a lot of cars parked up in front of the street. Right in front of the church, there's don't park anytime signs. So if my father leaves it there 10 minutes to go in and go to the bathroom, he'll come out and get a ticket on his car. It's a congested area. You have residential down the block, you have the church, and then you have the school, which is a very big school. It's a very big building. And there's facilities to the right, to the left, to the front. And nobody mentioned also, this is a 12-month school. So we're talking about inconvenience all the time.
Okay.
It's got to be another option.
Thank
You
you.
close this. I mean, if you close it for an hour or 2, let the kids run around. But to close it that number of hours, what about when the church gets deliveries, UPS or candles? There's so much going on, and they've been there for so long. It doesn't really seem sensible. And also the parishioners to the church, they don't live around the block where they could walk.
Right.
My father comes from Staten Island. People are coming from Manhattan, from the Bronx. The Greek people, they celebrate different saint days on different days, and they'll go to all different churches. So people are coming here from other places. You don't want them to not come anymore. And the ones that come, they're usually elderly. So they're not working people, they're retired. So they're
Nikki,
either
thank-
hobbling with a cane, hobbling with a wheelchair, coming with an aid.
Right.
We're expecting them to park. The other lady said accessoride. They don't want to be bothered accessoride. They leave you on the furthest corner, and it's too bad. And that's the same with the Uber.
Nikki,
They're not going to waste no time.
thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Okay, Anthony. So I think we've heard all from public testimony. We have Stella Kokolas.
Can I add just 2, 3 questions? Can you give me the floor?
Yeah, Stella, yes, Stella. Yes, go ahead, Stella.
Well, as you see, it's imperative the committee to consider this closure of the street because it's not similar with other cases. We're dealing with ethical values. We're dealing with society. We're dealing with people. Please, the committee has to take all these questions under consideration. And 3 things. The school can really facilitate the students on the parks. The fire trucks go in and out, they have to have access. The people have to have access to that church. As I mentioned before, we are obliged to help churches, any kind of religious facility. Please, the committee, think all of this, take under consideration that it's a very peculiar situation and help the church, help the community.
Thank you,
help
Stella.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stella. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, and appreciate your time being here. Thank you.
Jean is Are you raising your hand? Do you have a question? Only a question because we have to get to committee
Yeah.
discussion.
You're muted.
Yeah, my overarching question is the fact that the school isn't on the call. Did the school actually ask for this or the DOT? Because it seems like.
Okay, so I'll explain that. Right. So an application was filed and made. Moving forward, the DOT is required to notify the community board. And so they did that. They provided us with a written notification of the application, and we have a 30-day comment period. So we are to submit a comment, we're going to submit comments on the application. That's our role tonight. We're advisory. We don't issue the permits, but certainly the members of the public have given the committee. So now the committee will deliberate and discuss their motion to the Department of Transportation. That will happen next. And given the time, I want them to get to it. So go ahead, Anthony.
Okay.
Sure. So
can I just say one thing? I just want the rest of the people to know that this is not on the community board. All of you guys did not decide that you wanted to close the street. This has nothing to do with you. So I think people should know that it's not you made that.
Thank you.
Decided to close the street.
Thank you so much. So again, thank you everyone for coming. Those who were able to give public comments, and so I think we should go back to and talk about the first item on the table, which was with Bay Ridge Prep. Do I have anyone who wants to start with that conversation? I always throw it to Doris or to Steve.
All right, okay. I think I said several times that we need to ask Bay Ridge Prep to modify their hours. I think their hours are more than needed, and they pretty much said it was more than what they need.
Right.
So to please ask them to modify their hours and work better with the neighbors.
And Josephine, are we looking for a motion here? I'm sorry. Are we?
Yeah, well, we need to write to the Department of Transportation, and I think it's helpful to do that in the form of a motion.
Okay.
I mean, certainly we can put together, all of the comments that were raised tonight. I think we heard that overarching theme. We did receive a petition from neighbors, so perhaps we could submit all of that to the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
Steve?
I think that what we should do with respect to this one is it's an analog of what we've already talked about and many other things where we should who's on?
Can everyone please mute
everyone
themselves?
is muted.
I'm going to mute all, and then you could just unmute yourselves. So Steve, you could unmute.
Yeah, I think that we should do the same thing that we've done in many other contexts. I think that we should actually tell the department that we would disapprove of this. I know we don't have that power, but we would disapprove of it if Bay Ridge Prep doesn't agree to certain specific points, and one of them being that they have to have a conference with all the members after after giving proper notification to all. They could do it right in Bay Ridge Prep, and I think it would be very convenient to all of them. And then if they come up with some kind of a deal, then we would approve it. But I mean, I recognize this is not something that we can say that we support it or against it, but I think we can say that subject to we could either do it either way, that we're against it unless they do it, or we're for it if they do it.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's good.
And the same thing. Actually, I think as far as the other one is concerned, I actually think it's a turkey. I don't think they should be allowed to do it at all. To me, the thing that sells the most with respect to the school is that they have a space right across the street where the kids can play and go there. Okay, so I would say that I would disapprove of it.
Yeah, I think that both they're very different situations. I think with Bay Ridge Prep, you've got younger kids in a more isolated area where you might want to try to figure out a way to make that street usage work. And I think Steve, Doris, you guys both bring up good points. I think with the high school, you're dealing with high school kids. They can cross the street. They can they're practically, adults in a way, like they can, and the park being so close, I agree, Steve, it kind of does make it kind of a turkey.
Right. And I don't typically, jump in, but I was very concerned to hear from residents about the barriers not being manned on the street, about the inconsistency of the street closures, about the church's, need for its elderly parishioners. I mean, on and on. There were just so many concerns that were raised tonight. The fire department access to 67th Street, 67th Street being a limited street that has westward access, as a through street. The programs, food deliveries, there just seemed to be so much at stake here, and the overall safety, and really, what I heard over and over again tonight is that they aren't following the basic ground rules of a open street. That's really statutory under the administrative code, and I think that's a great concern, and I think that should be highlighted in any motion that the committee comes up with tonight.
Does FDNY not get to weigh in on some sort of street closure that's so close to a firehouse?
FDNY should have been,
Right? I mean, I would think, yeah. So I would also raise that right
They
there.
told me
Sorry?
that no one told them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Point of order, or this is for the board only?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Doris?
One of the things that surprised me, many of the comments I heard about 67th Street, I was not surprised about. But one of the things that concerns me most is the amount of activity that the fire department uses that block. And I think that's a major consideration and is a major safety concern.
Absolutely.
Not just for 67th Street, but for all of Bay
Good
Ridge.
one. Agreed. That's a major sticking point. I think the FDNY being so close to that and not being given any consideration completely.
Can I say something?
I'm sorry. This is for the committee only.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. Anyone else on the committee? Diane Gennardis?
Hi. I'm totally opposed to the closure of 67th Street, even for limited hours. To do that on a block where there is a house of worship is absolutely unacceptable. It behooves me that it would even be a consideration. If we wouldn't do it in front of any other church, and this church is a very vibrant community, and I think that we should just absolutely oppose that application for that reason alone. In addition to the hardships that the residents on the block are suffering. So that's my opinion. In terms of the Bay Ridge Prep application, as I mentioned before, I can see the value of the children going out for lunchtime at recess. And so it should be limited. If we do approve their application, I feel that it should be limited simply to lunchtime every day. Thank you.
Okay. So Steve, I'm sorry, your hand's still up, or? No, okay. So for time's sake, can we sort of surmise a little bit? Like, I think for the first one, for the Bay Ridge Prep, we're sort of leaning towards, we understand its value, but we need to ask Bay Ridge Prep to meet with their neighbors and to perhaps redefine the times in which the street is closed. Is that a reasonable summary of what we're looking at here?
Yes, Anthony. But I also think that we should put something in there about the guards, and maybe a sign on the ends of there that's something the board would like to see there.
Sure.
Even if nobody else does, we do.
So better signage, and the people who are working there should be more
they should have something
identified.
Something identified, vests or something like that, and they should sit in the middle of the street, not on the side.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and then for
Okay, so we need a second to that, and I could launch that.
Yes.
Do we have a
second that?
I see Doris as a second.
Wait, I think I missed to click a button. Give me a second. Oh, can you do it?
No, it went away.
Okay, so bear with me. My apologies.
At least this is one where we can vote in favor where we're actually in favor, as opposed to a reverse vote where we're in favor of something that we're against. Or
I'm
It went
sorry.
off again.
I'm sorry.
went away.
We're fast, but not that fast, Josephine.
Yeah.
So again, this would be for an amendment to what the application is actually presented as. Is that correct?
This.
No, it's not an application.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not an application. This is basically our comments on the permit. So we can't approve or disapprove directly, but we can offer comment on it.
And, but again, I'm saying our comments reflect the fact that we believe that there has to be some kind of amendment to their application in terms of times and whatever other.
Yeah, we're asking that Bay Ridge Prep meet with the neighbors to discuss the timing of when the street is closed. And to potentially amend the time that it's closed, and also make sure that the barriers are manned in a way that it's more identifiable and with better signage.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, and this is for board members only, please. Okay.
Josephine?
Yes, you're in favor?
Yes.
Okay, so we have,
Thank you.
so we have more people, I will review this.
Yeah.
We have more people here, the majority in favor. So I believe the motion carries.
Yes.
I think some people were on there that were panelists. Okay, so Anthony, move to the second one.
So the second one, so I would say this is more of a flat out kind of we disapprove of this for reasons stated, being of course the location, church access, parking, FDNY, not being the park, right, and the parks across the street. I mean, I can kind of run the gamut, but I think we're all sort of have been saying the same thing, that this is a high school. There are other options. There are parks right there. The inconvenience of the block, the potential dangers with the FDNY down the block. So we would vote to disapprove this street closure completely.
Okay, we need a second.
No, I think we would vote to, unless they meet our what we were requesting.
Okay.
Right. In other words, it's not just we disapprove of it. We disapprove of it unless they do the things we're asking.
But we're not asking them to do
I don't think
anything
we're
on
asking anything.
67th Street.
This
is
one,
67th Street.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
telecommunications.
I apologize. I'm
You're-
thinking the wrong way. Yes, that's
you're-
correct.
you're
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
This
Gone.
is the turkey. This is the
This
turkey.
is the turkey, yes.
Yes.
And so Josephine, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. So I'm going to put up the poll. So this is a motion to deny the open streets, to recommend denial to the Department of Transportation regarding 67th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, this is one of those counterintuitive things. I am voting in favor of a motion to deny.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. So if you're voting in favor, you're voting to deny.
Thank you.
Okay.
In favor, Josephine.
Okay, so we
you.
have 8 in favor of that motion. Motion carries.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
both.
Thank you, everybody. It was a longer meeting, and thank you for your patience. I know I had my kid with me, so I thank you for your patience on tonight.
Good job, Anthony.
Thank you.
Good
Good
job,
night, everyone.
everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night now.
I want to
Thank you
commend
so much,
all the
Josephine.
residents from both areas for all their input.
Yes,
and
for
stuff.
coming out.
I do
tonight.
too.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
all.
everyone.
And good night
Can I
all.
ask you one
Thank you.
question before you go?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Have